evidence? Nope, did not leave any DNA evidence. It was the bite mark evidence. You got it? Yay, okay. Yeah, Ted Bundy, when he was in prison, he was getting really bored. He was stuck in there and he was getting really, really bored, and he was building up his appetite for murder. So when he finally escaped, he went to Florida. He ended up in Florida from Colorado. He ended up in Florida. He escaped from jail, and he lost a bunch of weight so he could get through this hole in the ceiling in his room into the jailer's room and escape through the jailer's apartment on foot with no winter clothes. Right? And he got himself to Florida and went to a sorority and just went crazy in there and ended up raping and murdering people, but he bit one girl on the butt. And that bite mark was very distinctive because all of our teeth are very, depending on over our lifetime, you go to the dentist, they have all these x-rays, they're quite different. And bite mark evidence is pretty good. It was first used actually in the Salem witch trials. So he had pretty nasty teeth as far as like the shape of them, so that was really good evidence, and that just proved that he was the person. Can you see it? Yeah. So he has 74 to 78 that we know of. He is actually suspected of killing his neighbor when he was 12 and she was about 7. That is, we still believe that he was the one who she went missing, was never found. He was the paper boy in the area. He went through 7 states, Washington, Oregon, Utah, and Idaho, Colorado, California, ended up in Florida. And his 35 plus victims, we believe it's more like in the 90s. But we can only pretty much say what he confessed at the end. He started buying time on death row. He'd gotten a couple stays of execution, and to buy time, he started spilling his guts about more and more murders. But by then, victims' families were like, "We're done with him. We just get rid of him." So he was executed before he lost time. Before he was in the middle of his spree of confessing to more and more murders. So there he is, playing with his girlfriend's little girl. Yeah. He was quite a womanizer, and she wrote this book called The Phantom Prince, My Life with Ted Bundy, because she was with him the entire time of his murdering spree. They didn't live in this, they lived together briefly, but then he was in college, he was at law school, he was over here, he was traveling, so she was always on the phone with him. So he would actually talk to her on the nights that he murdered somebody. So she writes this book. Years later, she became an alcoholic. She had to go through all of this rehab process because she felt so guilty that she had missed so many clues that she might have been able to report to the police. So what crucial evidence, photographed but not collected from the Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman crime scene, would have directly ID'd the killer? Now, I've said this a few times in my presentations. So a fingerprint, there really was a bowl of ice cream that was partially melted in the house, and there was a fingerprint on it, but was not identified. Bloody footwear impressions found near the gate. There were bloody footwear impressions everywhere. Second bloody glove found near Cato's bungalow. Everybody knows there was a second bloody glove found, and it was near Cato's bungalow. Drop of blood on Nicole's back. So, in this picture, and I've showed this a few times, but perhaps I didn't, and my husband said to me, I'm not sure you explained it quite as well as you should. So here I go, for you, honey. So there's all of this blood spatter all over Nicole. We can tell based on physics and what we know about blood spatter, the science of blood spatter, and which way it came from. So we can pretty much tell. We photograph it, and then we collect it. So we photographed all of this. You can't really see it as well as if you get a digital version of this picture and go down to it. But that drop of blood is different than all the rest. The rest are coming at angles. They came from her neck being slit. They came from different acts during the murder. But that one was a drop that was proven. We know scientifically that person cut their hand and a drop of blood fell smack straight down. It could have only been the killer. That could not have been her blood. But we had a picture of it. Then at the scene, of course, it should have been collected after it was photographed. And then her body should have been taken to the medical examiner's office. But what happened was she was put in a body bag, so things were smeared up, and then when she got back to Emmy's office, she was washed off, which is typically what we do. And then they looked at the pictures and went, oh my God, we blew that. So there's, you can see that was quite a mess in that area, and there's OJ down there and his dream team. So, what crucial evidence was missing in the Casey Anthony case that ultimately led to her acquittal in the murder of her daughter, Kaylee? Did anybody know that? The duct tape found on Kaylee's mouth directly matching. Well, actually, the duct tape did match. We had a match between a roll of duct tape from her house and the piece of duct tape that was taken off of her mouth. There was a match. But that just says that that came from that lot of duct tape. Okay? It doesn't say Casey did it, right? Not enough to somebody to prison or death row. So the prosecution could not prove that Kaylee had accidentally drowned in the Anthony's pool. Well, they couldn't prove that, but that was the defense's take on it. Like, oh, her parents were babysitting and the baby was drowned, and then she came home. They, they're like, oh my God, we're sorry. The chloroform found in the trunk of Casey's car could not be scientifically proven to be used to subdue Kaylee. There was a lot of things found in Casey's trunk. A lot of it she attributed to rotting meat, and I put, my Kentucky Fried Chicken back there 3 days ago and didn't clean it out and stuff like that. But there was actually some weird stuff like residue of chloroform and things like that that were highly suspicious. But we also know that within rugs, in a trunk or anywhere in a car, there's a lot, in any rug, there's a lot of chemicals, and sometimes those things will come to the surface and give us a reaction to something and kind of mess us up. But actually in this case, there was no DNA or fingerprints. There was nothing definitive enough to send her to prison. Nothing definitive enough. And she was young and a woman. So you see that was played on the sympathy of the jury. If that was a little bit older and a man, you might have had a whole other, people might have overlooked some things and gone more with their gut. So there's the duct tape, the piece of duct tape, what was left of it, and it had a little heart on it. Usually in murder cases where the person knows the victim and the suspect know each other, there's lots of times, especially if they have an intimate relationship, mothers and children, there's like little evidence of taking care of the body after, evidence that they cared about that person. That's kind of an odd thing to be on a duct tape on a mouth. Couldn't prove anything. There was no fingerprints and no DNA. Now, what is the origin of the name Jack the Ripper? Does anybody know that? What's that? Yes. The killer ripped up all newspapers and sprinkled them over the face. That's actually that would have been a good answer, because that's how people get named, for being so-and-so the so-and-so, by something that they do or they do a lot in their crimes. An anonymous report to police was made. There was an anonymous report made to police about a suspicious demolition expert named Jack. That is true. The press picked it up from an old pub song. That happens a lot too. The popular songs become like, whatever, like when Ted Bundy was like, burn, buddy, burn. There were drinks in Florida named after him, sadly, and things like that. Pubs have a lot of stuff going on there. Someone claiming to be the killer wrote letters to the newspaper and signed them Jack the Ripper. A lot of killers, serial killers, they get crazy when we're not paying attention to them. So they will write letters, they will write to the newspaper, they will write to the press, they will call the radio station, they will send things, they'll just like, look at me, and they will leave us a little bit of a trail. So this is actually 2 letters written by Jack the Ripper, and you can see how he had some pretty cool drawings up there, crazy drawings. He would draw those things, and then he would sign them at the end, Jack the Ripper. And he would comment the press, like, oh, I saw you over here. I was walking by when you were investigating the murder of this prostitute, because there were prostitutes that he murdered, and he would taunt them with the information, knowledge of the crimes, little tidbits. So let them know, yeah, I'm really your guy.